you for the introduction. And first, happy holidays, everyone. It's a great time of the year with a happy ending. I'm certain that you are going to be very pleased what you are going to be seeing and hearing from our expert team today. We have the Star White House joining us, and what we are going to cover is in-depth in terms of what we have done since the last time we heard from you for the conceptual design. And then at the end of the conversation, we are going to I think I'm being muted. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
We can now.
Okay, all right, sorry. And then at the end, we are going to go over some of the questions that you've been asking to us and try to answer them at the end. And then we have enough time to have the conversation together. So, it's going to take around 35-40 minutes for us to present. And then we have enough time to be able to have a robust discussion. So the next one, please. Okay, so today we are meeting the fourth time. And as I said, what we have done since the last time is we heard you loud and clear. Some of you or most of you have raised the concerns in terms of the conceptual design. You said, what about the circulation, stream alignment, access issues. So what we are going to be sharing with you is we heard you loud and clear. We took it to the heart. We went back to the drawing board. We wrote Star White House to help us to formulate how can we address these issues before we can advance the design to the next stage, which is going to be the preliminary design, as you are familiar with this part of the design, which is necessary to go to the PDC, which we are shooting for the summer 2023. So here we are today. We really would like to have an open discussion with you all. You are kind of our test bed. Give us the feedback. Are we on the right track? So we can take this project to the next level into the preliminary design with an endpoint of finalizing that design next year. That's our targeted date, and we are indeed still on track meeting that date with the hope for starting construction in 2025. So for those who may be coming this meeting the first time, I just want to quickly recap what this project is all about. As you remember that we said, okay, it's such a big project, long-awaited project, but it has important components that require standalone attention. And for that reason, we divided the project into two phases. The first phase is the lake improvements. John McLaughlin has been working with Stephanie, Parks Department, and you all to see what can we do in the lake itself before we start diverting some of that water to the downstream portion for daylighting. So the good news is the design is completed, and we are indeed bidding the contract this year with a start date sometime summer in the fall. Then the big component comes in, which you are the most interested in, is the phase two. It's the Tibbetts Brook daylighting plus the Greenway. Again, this is an exciting project. We are literally killing two birds with one stone. We are going to be providing combined sewer overflow reduction by daylighting the buried pipe, but also creating this new green pathway or the connection, the Putnam Greenway, which is going to run parallel to the open channel. And of course, creating the new park in this environmental justice area is definitely one of the objectives that we are targeting for. Just to recap, project funding, it's currently fully funded. And as I mentioned, we are coming to you back again to get more feedback before we take it to the later design stages for the PDC meeting next summer. So these are the 4 areas that we are going to focus on today. And we believe these are the 4 areas that you've been giving us significant feedback at this stage of the design. Connectivity circulation, Gail and the team are going to talk about that and what we have done and the resulting analysis. Maintenance and access has been a key component of the project for formulation. And the good news is we have done a lot of meetings with our operational folks, but also had meetings with the fire department, NYPD, get their feedback. So what you are going to be seeing today is not just the consultant team and parks and the DEP, but also incorporates those other agency input at the same time. And then we are going to talk about, what are those stream access points for the public and also for the community. And then we are going to end up with the public art question. We've been asked or prompted, like, it's great that you are doing this wonderful water project, a greenway, but where's the public art is really going to become alive as part of this project, which we are going to touch base and close with that. So with that being said, I think the next one is Gail is going to pick it up and start talking about the context and connectivity. Gail, floor is yours.
Thank you, Pinar. So we're Star White House Landscape Architects and Planners, and we're really excited today. Me personally, because I see some familiar faces and people in the crowd, and I had worked on this with you back in 1997, and in those days we thought it was a great idea, but it was kind of a pipe dream, and the plans got put in the shelves and in a few people's pockets, and it's so exciting to be here to present these plans with the urgency on behalf of DEP to get the project done and in construction by 2025. So I'm just incredibly excited and honored to work on it. As Pinar mentioned, we picked up where the TAG meeting left off last time, working with the hydrological work that Hazen had presented and early concepts. And we started first really looking at connectivity to the neighborhoods, to Van Cortlandt Park, and looked at those access points, kind of zooming out and how they connected to the bicycle network, how maintenance and access could get into the corridor, how the park circulation worked in relation to those access points. So we zoomed way out, and that's where we'll begin today, and then we'll start to dive into more details in the next phase. So one of the most important things looking at it in a regional scale is to understand how important this link is in the Putnam Greenway, the recently connected section in Van Cortlandt Park. It was actually recently co-opted by the state and is part of the Empire State Trail. So in theory, you can start your trip to Canada from Tibbetts Brook. So that's pretty exciting. So it's really a greenway of statewide significance. And I think that's very important. And then also connecting south to the growing network south on both sides of the Harlem River. So it's very important, and will continue to be a destination in and of itself. So I'm just here to set the stage for my talented colleague Ankita Gupta, and she will take you through the details of the advanced schematic design. So I'm passing it off to you, Ankita.
Thank you, Gail. So I'm going to be talking about where we left off, the access points in the last meeting, which was held in spring of 2022. So where we are now is all access points are university accessible, and we've managed to have gradual slopes from the street level to the corridor. And I'm going to talk about the access points as we are now. So starting from Van Cortlandt Park, we did reduce one access point there, and we have 4 of them now. We have a confirmed Van Cortlandt Park South as an access point. Moving south, the West 236th Street is being considered, but it's contingent upon ongoing discussions with private property owners. We did look at 234th as an access point, but shifted it to 233rd Street due to constraints of the adjacent property being in private ownership, and to allow for a better orientation of the ramp towards the north. And we also confirmed 230th Street as an access point. Next. So here we are showing all these access points in relationship to the analysis that was performed in relation to the subway lines, the subway stops, bus lines, bike paths. Next. Here we are looking at the vehicular access points for maintenance and emergency. These have been reviewed by DEP, Parks, NYPD, and FDNY. So we have 3 within Van Cortlandt Park and 2 in the CSX corridor. Next, please. So looking at the circulation within Van Cortlandt Park, this has been refined since spring. We've strengthened the east-west access by shifting the proposed bridge to better align with the existing park circulation, as well as with the strong desire line from the 242nd Street metro station into the park. And the existing parking area now serves as a trailhead with 2 access points that open onto the parking lot. Next. So diving into the design, next please. In terms of design considerations, there was an ask for a more dynamic design within the corridor, and so in response, we revisited the design, and some of the things we looked at was accessibility across the park, ecology, bike paths, etc. Next, please. So now we're just going to be going through different sections, focusing on the design in more detail. Next, please.
Whoops.
Starting with Van Cortlandt Park, this is an existing conditions photo showing the Putnam Trail with its mature tree canopy on either side and existing park circulation to the west. Next. So here, as I mentioned earlier, we've shifted the location of the proposed bridge to tie in better with the east-west park circulation, as well as the west 242nd Street park entrance. And we've also simplified access from the parking lot to the greenway. So now we have 2 trailheads that accommodate bike racks, benches, and trash receptacles from the parking lot. So there are 2 entrances that lead you to the Putnam Trail. Next. So here it's a section under the existing blue Putnam Bridge. So the bridge currently is a low spot and is prone to flooding after rain events. Previously in the last meeting, we had shown a pocket wetland extend under the bridge, but now what we're doing is we are regrading and modifying the topography to create a dry side to the west of the bridge and a wet side to the east, and ultimately capturing this water into the new daylighted channel. Next. This is showing the new proposed bridge spanning over the daylighted stream, making a connection to the Putnam Trail and then into the parking lot via the trailhead. Next. So here's a view looking north towards Putnam Trail. The existing parking lot is to the east, and the proposed bridge is to the west. And we were able to get a seamless connection here as the topography is fairly flat. So that's what we're looking at here. Next.
Oops.
So here we're looking at the moving south. There are 2 access points added. This is showing Van Cortlandt Park South as an access point. We do have stone step as labeled as number 1, and then an ADA accessible ramp that's coming off the existing park circulation connecting to the Putnam Trail, and there's also a maintenance path to access the Jerome Park Reservoir structure. Next. This shows the relationship of the Putnam Trail to the proposed bridge and the stone paths to the east of the existing Van Cortlandt Park paths. Next. So moving into the CSX corridor design, this is an image from Van Cortlandt Park South overpass looking towards the 239th Street access point. This is also the widest part of the site. Next. So here we have a path that's previously it was cantilever, and feedback had told us that the general alignment was too linear. So we refined the design, and now the proposed elevated concrete pathway has more flexibility with the alignment of the path and allows for more planting areas. The path is sufficiently elevated to avoid flooding during typical rain events. And there is an accessible overlook for viewing the stream corridor. Next. This is a view of the 239th Street access point with the ramp from 239th Street towards the right-hand side, the greenway, and then to the left, you see that accessible lookout. Next. Here's a section through the landing area looking south. Next. So here we're moving to the next section, which is between 238th Street and 236th Street. This is a fairly narrow section within the CSX corridor. We did pull the path away from the large BJ's building to create some planting buffers, and the elevated path does give us some flexibility in terms of alignment. We did overlap it with the stream where possible to create a buffer both from the Major Deegan Expressway as well as the large building structure. Next. So moving on between 236 and 234th, the path here is elevated and it's at the same elevation as the adjacent private parking lot. And this is to allow for a future access if an easement can be obtained. And as well as we did try to meander the path as best as we could to create variety, not just in plan, but also as the path goes at the same elevation as the parking lot, it is going vertically higher and then coming back lower. Next. So here's a view looking south with Major Deegan to the left and the private parking lot to the right. We have also started looking at native hardy shrubs to be included within the design in conversation with the Natural Resources Group. Next. In this section, we can see the relationship of the greenway path at the same elevation as a private parking lot to allow for that future connection that I mentioned earlier. Next. Here's a view from the 234th Street overpass looking north. Again, the private parking lot is to the left, Major Deegan Expressway to the right, and then the path has a little angle to create for more variety across the corridor. Next. So at 233rd Street, we did consider 234th versus 233rd Street. The entrance at 233rd Street did allow for a more direct connection to the greenway. And the other thing it minimizes is the footprint of the ramp itself, allowing for more planted areas. It still maintains connectivity to Bailey Playground, which is to the east side of the Major Deegan. Next. Here's a cross-section looking south, showing the ramp in relation to the greenway. Next. This is the underpass, which offers a unique space for potential art installations. Next. So as discussed in the last STAG meeting, there was a concern with these low-lying properties and like how best the stormwater can be managed. So we have moved the location of the intake structure, which we're going to see on the next slide. So now it's between 233rd and 231st Street, highlighted as number 3, and shifting the intake structure has allowed for a more flexible grading adjacent to the properties, and we've included a bioretention area to capture the water from these sites. Next. We have now the new access point from 230th Street to provide for that east-west access, and then where Whelan Place is included as a vehicular access point, which can be used for maintenance as well as for emergency purposes. Next. Once the stream is in this underground buried pipe, we are trying to make the path and the pipe coincide. This will allow to maximize planted buffers on either side of it. Next. And then here we can see the buried pipe and the ramp from 230th Street adjacent to each other. Next. This is a view from the 230th Street overpass looking north. So that's the big building structure to the left, a planted buffer, the ramp, and then Major Deegan Expressway to the right-hand side. Next. So now we're going to briefly talk about ecological connections. Next. The planting design, we've started to look at it a little bit. We want to do our best to embrace the microenvironments of both Van Cortlandt Park as well as the CSX corridor. And next, please. The palette will be such that it's extremely tough, which can tolerate periodic flooding, drought, as well as the ability to compete with invasives. Next. And then art and interpretation. So we did evaluate spaces for art across the project. Next, please. And then the space under the bridges presented to be unique spaces, and they can act as focal points across the site. And these can be spaces to showcase work from local artists. Please. So looking at temporary art murals under these underpasses. Next. And then here there are opportunities to integrate temporary art into open spaces both on and adjacent to the greenway. Next. We will be incorporating signage across the park. So here we're showing an example of a standard interpretive sign, which is approved by the Public Design Commission to be used across the site. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Pinyar.
All right. The next couple of minutes, I think we are going to go over a few questions that we've been hearing from you. Terry, you want to run these real quickly and then we'll talk about the next steps?
Sure. So these were kind of like the top 3 questions we've been working on. I think as we move forward, we can build upon this as we start checking things off our list, and we can put that up on the Tibbetts website as well. So regarding the potential access point between 234th and 236th, we have been in contact with the property owner about potential access easement. The greenway is being designed so that if there is access in the future, that it can be accommodated. So we've been in discussion about that. Has there been any follow-up with the private property owner who reached out to the community board about selling their property? We are still considering this proposal as well. The property is not directly adjacent to CSX corridor. So, you know, whether or not we acquire that property, it wouldn't impact the design of the daylighting project. And then another big question that came up throughout the process this year was about public art. And something that we had to consider kind of immediately off the bat was whether or not DEP could include funding for that in our contract that we've already started using, which is an existing contract, and what we could do in terms of any type of permanent art. The answer to that, after multiple discussions with our procurement people and contracting people, is that we were not able to make that happen on our end in terms of putting funding in for permanent art. But we have designated locations for temporary art down the road. And as someone who's worked on public art projects for many, many years for the city, I think that's actually a great route to go, because you're probably going to get more local artists, and you're going to get more collaboration between the actual community and artists. So so that's kind of where we are with the art. There's definitely more discussion to come on that as we move forward, but that can come later as we progress with completing the project. So there was a question that had come up as well about playgrounds. There's no space for that. It's limited. We did look into that to see if there was any possibility, but that's not possible. So we've also been talking about the PSA, which is a purchase and sale agreement with CSX. We're very, very close to signing it. And again, we're on track to meeting that deadline within the end of the year. We will let you know when that happens. So for safety features, again, we've actually been doing a ton of, we've actually had meetings, I think, you know, several meetings a week on all these different things. We've been talking about art, talking about all these different, the CSX acquisition. And another thing we've been talking about in considering is public safety. And we've been having discussions with our other public safety and operations agencies within the city. So we have also taken feedback from them, and we'll be incorporating into our design strategies. And again, we will be updating you more as that progresses. And then it says will the city continue using the term daylighting for this project? And we've gone back and forth on that as well. And yeah, the answer to that is yes. So this is the, we're just going to recap what we had talked about in the beginning of the presentation. This is our schedule. So, you know, we've had a ton of meetings this year. We've made really great progress. We've taken all your feedback back to the drawing board. It's gotten us to this point. We're making great progress. And anybody who's worked on city projects knows we're kind of moving at warp speed, which is great. So I think what we're going to do in the spring is to kind of repeat what we did this spring. So we'll have maybe a field trip, we'll have another tag meeting, we'll go back to the community board, we'll go back to the PDC. So it's kind of going to repeat as we progress with the design. And I do want to mention, Ankita had shown a rendering of the potential interpretive signage. That is something that we want your input in on as well. And we'll probably be reaching out to you to maybe discuss themes for that. So we are not anywhere really far along in that process as well. And we'd love your feedback on that. So at some point between now and the next tag meeting, we might be reaching out and maybe scheduling something to get your input. And I think, did you need any other points, Pinar? Did I miss anything?
No, I just want to add that, you know, I mean, here we are, you know, we heard you, as I said, loud and clear. Just want to make sure we are on the right track to proceed or advance the design to the preliminary design. That's critical to get that feedback. Is it a thumbs up? Are we doing good? Is it a go? And then some of the questions you might be raising, like what is the material, the lighting, you know, where the signage is gonna go, is later on that we'll come back in the spring, and hoping that we'll do indeed a field trip together. Fingers crossed we'll have the signed PSA by then, so we will be able to do a field trip together sometime April or so, and then you know, further the design and get into the details of the materials and lights and any other questions you may have. So stay tuned. But how can, I mean, I think there are a couple questions there on the chat. So
would it be easier if I just read them aloud and okay.
yeah, I think it might be
Through
easier
them.
that whoever is can raise their hand from our team to respond will respond.
Okay, so let me go through the questions in the chat. We'll try to answer those. Hopefully, if anybody else had those questions, we can answer them. And so Chauncey had asked, is the plan being designed to be able to incorporate future expansion to the south, Metro North 230th to 225th?
I can, I mean, I'll try to answer that one. You know, currently the water pipe that the closed circuit that we are going underground, that is connecting or filtering in the Metro North section, and we are connecting to the existing regulator for the water project. If the question is like, is the plan being designed for the bike path or the greenway to continue, that is still, I believe, in the discussions, and we haven't really heard from Metro North in terms of allowing us to be able to use that operational land. Currently, we are trying to get an easement for us to build the pipe, the water part of the project, and the greenway part of the project is still TBD.
Understood, Pilar. But the question, I guess my question to be more specific is that, is it being designed so that we can future, because obviously we're fighting and pushing Metro North to allow that expansion south, but will the design be such that it's easy to continue it south as long as there's approval? Obviously we know you need to get the stream and the pipe, but the path just to continue.
I think I'm gonna defer that to Gail, but I believe the answer is yes.
No, absolutely. There's nothing to prevent the path from going south. It's if you can open that gate, you can keep going.
This isn't excessive.
So the next question is, what will be the relationship of the height of the walkway to the height of the Deegan, and how will noise be mitigated?
Who wants to take that? Ankita, you know it best. But it varies. So one of the things we talked about in the design is that not only does it vary horizontally, but it varies vertically. So it goes up and down a little bit. And so it changes depending on where you are in the path. Right now, we only have a planted buffer. We don't have the capacity to build on the major Deegan wall at this point because it's under the jurisdiction of state DOT. And maybe Mitch, you could take that a little bit further from the park standpoint.
I just want to add to it that we've tried to keep the path away from the Deegan as much as we could have to allow for that planted buffer.
And this is Mitchell Loring from Parks. I'll just add that we are in conversations with state DOT to understand what exactly is and is not possible as far as sound mitigation or other modifications to the wall between the Deegan and the corridor. So hopefully we will get good news from those conversations, but it is an interstate highway, so there's certain limitations.
Okay, so Karen had asked what kind of material is being proposed for the Greenway path. I think, is that a Mitchell? It's Gail? Okay.
Yeah, we can do both. We can. So as Pinar mentioned, this was really about the spatial arrangement and of the path, the access points, the alignment. For the renderings, we had to choose a material, and we have had some discussions with Parks thinking of what's durable, maintainable, long lasting. So the current thinking, and we'd love to get your input on this, is that it would be an integrally colored concrete plank system, whether it's cast in place or cast off site. There's a lot of flexibility with that, with color and texture that could be unique here. So currently that's what we're thinking. The on-grade portions in Van Cortlandt Park will still be asphalt like they are to the north, but the sections within the CSX corridor, because they are on these elevated platforms, we're thinking of a precast, integrally colored, textured, just for this section, concrete. So I don't know.
But
Mitch.
will they be permeable?
So the planking system itself, because it's elevated, obviously there'll be gaps and water can flow through that. So yes, on that
And
level.
what about the asphalt?
Yeah.
Hi, Gail.
Hi. Nice to
Where-
see you. I'll let
Yeah.
Mitch take the rest.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Hi, Karen. So the permeability of the asphalt is something that we're still considering. Parks has certain concerns with the maintenance of that, but we want to make sure we're balancing all the needs of the project and proper management of the water. So that's one of those details that will still work out between this point and getting to finalized materials at our preliminary design level.
Thanks, Mitchell. You know our position on that. Hi, everybody.
Yes, I do.
What's happening next to the Deegan? There was a slide in which open channel is right next to the major Deegan. There's real need to get New York State DOT involved here. They can actually contribute some stuff to mitigate flood mitigation along there. Could you go back to that slide and show us the slide? At one point, the open channel looked like it was right next to the Deegan. And what'll happen when that overflows?
Well, I can take care of the overflow question, but I think as we had indicated, this is a CSO mitigation project. At the head end of the stream at Van Cortlandt Lake, we will be limiting the flow to 38 CFS, and that will be able to capture up to the 3 to 4 month storm. Any flows that are in addition to the 3 month storm would still be routed through the Broadway sewer. And then the only risk of flooding the Deegan would be if there is a catastrophic storm and Van Cortlandt Lake itself overflows because of the large amounts of water coming from the north, which we had talked to you about. So
yeah,
again,
which would totally never happen, by the way.
well,
I'm joking.
I mean, what we are just saying that that's something like under the purview of this. I mean, to mitigate
but,
those situations,
so
it has to be done in the north, is what I'm saying. Like,
I'm not
there's
saying we
nothing
need
on
to
this-
do more. Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
just asking is there a buffer? What is the relationship between the stream and the Deegan at its narrowest? And what
there is a physical concrete wall that would separate it, and on the Deegan side, it would be, that is what we are showing, as you see where and again, this daylighting of the stream is for the base flow and up to the 3 month storm, and it accounts for all of the local drainage that will come, from either side, from the Deegan side and from the other Broadway side. So it will incorporate all of that flow. The only thing it cannot incorporate is if what happened during Ida, where Van Cortlandt Lake started overtopping, and then all of that water. But again, that as we had discussed in one of our previous meetings, solutions to that would have to be done upstream. Once the water reaches the channel where we are it's too late.
Yeah, because 75% comes from upstream. Sandy, how high is the wall, or how high is the wall at the border between the open channel and the highway?
Our proposed wall will be slightly, it'll maintain under all cases under the peak flow conditions at least an 18-inch to 2 feet freeboard. So it will be it'll be either at or higher than the existing Deegan wall. So compared to today, and with this project, it will provide some additional protection to flood the Deegan. That's about it, but it's only incremental, not significant.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Thank you.
And something that I want to add, I think Charles brought up, like, are we saying if the daily flow still goes to the combined sewer, the base flow, which is the 7th CFS, is going to go to this channel. we are talking about these extreme flows that goes above and beyond the 38 CFS, which the channel is going to be designed for during wet weather conditions. So I just want to make sure that's clear. No, the answer is like on a daily, when it's not raining, that is no longer going to the Broadway sewer. But when it rains, we have the capacity in the stream to take it to the 38 CFS above and beyond the baseline flow.
Okay, the next question is, what about restrooms and drinking fountains?
Did you want to take this one?
Sure. So restrooms, we're talking about a tight corridor here and we cannot fit a comfort station in with everything else that we're doing. That's why, as Ankita pointed out in the design, we made sure that one of our mid-length, mid throughout the corridor access ramps up to the street network connects to 233rd, which can bring you right across to Bailey Playground, where there's an existing comfort station, as well as the comfort stations that are in Van Cortlandt Park. But as far as water fountain, I don't know if we've gotten into that kind of detail yet. Gail, can you
Not yet.
weigh in? So that's something we can maybe still look at.
Yeah, certainly in Van Cortlandt Park, where those are, really important trailheads. So you have your bike rack, your bottle filler, your bench. It's kind of a kit of parts that makes sense at those important access nodes.
So another question is about, are you looking at potential gentrification along the new Greenway? Highline offers us a lot of insight and information that we should consider. Yes, I think the city has considered that's a possibility. I think we always want to move forward, building beautiful designs across all 5 boroughs and different types of neighborhoods. I think we're in a very different type of neighborhood than the High Line, in terms of like what you're going to get with tourism and footprint, traffic there. So it is something that we've considered. And I think as we move forward, we can talk more about, where we think that might be headed. Somebody had asked about what is the purpose of the project? Is it to mitigate CSOs? And I think from DEP's standpoint, yes. This is part of our long-term control plan for the Harlem River. So it's gonna be very, very beneficial to the harbor. And then of course, it's always exciting when we can add another component that we're gonna extend a greenway and create new open park space. That is rare and you don't always get to see that. So this is we're very excited about both of those opportunities. So let me move on to, did we discuss this already? Bob was asking, is the pathway consistently 11 feet wide or does it vary?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's 11 feet wide and primarily to accommodate maintenance and emergency vehicles across the site.
Okay, and Karen was asking, what does the stream bottom look like?
Sandeep.
Yeah, so the stream, it will be a natural bottom that we are looking at. So the stream design will be a natural stream. We are still going to be incorporating some of the pools and riffles that we had shown in some of our earlier versions, and there will be, certain sections of the stream that will be deeper. There'll be certain where you can see the riffles, water flowing, and again, as you all know, based on the previous presentation, from top to the bottom, the gradient is pretty shallow, but what we will do is create certain, as Gail mentioned, microclimates within the stream design to create certain steeper and shallower sections. So yeah, the intent is for a natural stream design.
Charles McKinney is asking, how large will the opening of the pipe be that connects to the Harlem River? And will it be of a material that supports, that encourages aquatic life? Do we have an answer for that yet?
So the size of the pipe will be about 7 feet wide by 2 feet deep. And again, that size pipe, the 2 feet height, is to accommodate some of the gradients and not lose, so we couldn't do like a deeper pipe. And again, we are looking into the total length of it and whether we'll do a rough bottom or a smooth bottom, that is a future design decision. And really the consideration for that would be based on the potential aquatic life of or fishes migrating upstream and stuff, providing them a rougher bottom within the pipe to come. But again, that threshold of that will be decided by the length of the pipe it is, that whether some of this wildlife can cross that threshold.
I think that was terrific. That was just a perfect answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandeep. Hi, Ibrahim. Good to see you again.
Good to see everyone. Peace and blessings, everybody. Good to see you, Tara. And I just want to give a shout out to Karen Argenti, because I know that she's been wanting this and wanting to see this for so long. So just snaps to Karen and all her hard work.
Thank you.
And I think Ibrahim was just asking if there are other projects that we're looking at in terms of design models or in other cities that we're looking at to get inspiration from. If anybody can speak to that.
Well, I'll let Gail add to that, but I think one of the first and foremost we did want to mention is we definitely very closely looked at the Yonkers daylighting project. We are also looking at some of DEP's own work in Staten Island in the Blue Belt, and some of those successes that we found in providing value to the community and improving the aesthetics. Gail or Pinar, anyone else want to add to that? But those were the main ones that, we definitely looked at.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say that I think this project is pretty unique. It's in the ultra urban setup. And I think you all know from our field trip that it gets really constructed at some locations that the design team had a lot of bouncing back and forth to find the right mix of the bike path or the greenway aligning with the water, because we didn't want to lose either or. So we really fought hard internally and then, come to a consensus. And I think from that standpoint, it is a pretty unique project that we are going to really set the stage for daylighting, how the daylighting could happen in an ultra urban environment.
So John Lee is asking if the historic brook uncovered is going to be in exactly the same location.
I can speak to that. No, the historic brook, it was throughout a wet. Actually, if you go to the slide, the cover slide, the presentation, it shows where the historic brook was, and most of that wetland area or former floodplain area has been filled in with buildings. It is nearby, but not exactly in that same corridor.
That is.
Sorry, Sandeep, go ahead.
No, I think I didn't. Yeah, I was mistaken. Yeah, it's even beyond Broadway. Yeah.
So Bob had another question, and forgive me if we already touched on this, but he's saying, are we thinking about the same design vocabulary, signage, street furniture between the new Greenway and the southbound CSX corridor, or are we thinking about a different style, or is it too early to discuss?
I'd say we're still working on it.
Okay. Have we given up on a connection to Albany Crescent?
I can speak to that one. So we did look at it, and there wasn't really funds to make it happen as part of this project. And we've been speaking with DOT a lot during the design of this early design and thinking about the larger bicycle network planning. And they indicated, yeah, that could be fine, but really the key was just any kind of connection across the Deegan. So our ramps that bring you up to 233rd, that bring you up to 230th, those are all providing a similar level of access across as this whole new bridge structure would be for the Albany Crescent. So I think it's something that can still be looked at in the future with DOT as any kind of an upgrade to the greenway itself. But for this project, we have the funds to build this, which provides access up and over to the neighborhoods where DOT is going to continue looking at how to bring the greenway or bike network connections further south. So for this project, yes, the Albany Crescent connection is not going to be included, but it's something that's on the idea table for both Parks and DOT looking into the future.
And Mitchell, this might be a question that you might be best to answer as well. Can you talk a little bit about our thinking behind keeping out ATVs and e-bikes and how our discussions on that?
Yeah, so as I've mentioned in our other stakeholder meetings, it is a challenge. It is a challenge citywide. We don't have the perfect answer to it yet. It's one of those finer design details that we're going to keep working on between now and the preliminary design. The trick, as I've said before, is access controls at the entrance to the greenway that would restrict larger vehicles like an ATV, for instance, may also restrict devices that people with limited mobility use to access the greenway, like a recumbent bike or a parent with a cargo bike for children. So it's complicated. We don't have the answer just yet. We're going to keep thinking about it as we go from this point to our more refined preliminary design.
And Deb Travis is asking, and this might be a question for Sandeep, will storm surge be able to enter into the pipe at the Harlem River during a storm? Could it bring additional water into the greenway and cause flooding?
The answer there is no. We will be, as all of these outfalls will be protected with tide gate structures, so and backflow preventers, so no water from the harbor side or the river would be able to enter.
And this is a good question because I haven't been part of this discussion, but John is asking, why are we using the term daylighting and who came up with the term? That is not my expertise, my area of expertise.
Well, definitely not us. It is a term of art. It's being used for defining, opening up the buried water courses and restoring them more to natural conditions. So this has been the terminology in the water world. We've been applying daylighting in Bluebelt terrace, and I think this project has been always called Tibbetts Brook daylighting all along. So we haven't really came up with that. Karen, you may go remember those years, but this project has been always visioned as Tibbetts Brook daylighting to reflect that we are taking the water away from the buried pipe.
I was going to say, did Karen come up with the name? Should we give her credit? Could be Karen.
No, it wasn't me. No, it wasn't me. It was Gail. I'm blaming Gail.
There you go.
There's a link in Wikipedia.
I know. I'm trying to write, when I write stuff for our materials, I'm trying to say, okay, does the public know what this is? And does this make sense to people? And I'm trying to define it, but it is a pretty, once you get the hang of this project, it's pretty simple, but good question. So I think that is all the questions that I see in the chat, and we have a little bit more time. I know some people are going to other things, but oh, Lewis had asked in the spring, would it be possible to have a walk along the site? Yes, we will be doing that. And so if anybody has any questions in the meantime, right now, if you want to ask them, feel free. We have a little time to spare. And by the way, for anybody that couldn't make this is recorded and it'll be going up on our website. Chauncey, did you have a question?
I just want, when we're looking at, the rivers that we are, and other daylighting projects that we're sort of looking at, it seems like this project is, we're so excited about it, but this project is larger than any of the other projects that have happened in the city or in the state. And I wonder if we're taking any examples of other daylighting projects that have happened nationally and internationally, because this is just such an incredible project. We're all very excited about it, obviously. Just, I hope that we're able to highlight the importance of this and just look at other spaces across the world that have, where daylighting projects have been almost to this extent.
So, Pinar, I can just shed some, in addition to some of the local, part of the reason for us looking at the local projects is because these are very community oriented and local addressing local issues becomes much more important. But nationally, again, what we've looked at certain examples in the Anacostia watershed, that is, besides New York, that is one of the other major areas where a lot of the stream daylighting, stream restoration originated.
I know.
So we are kind of looking at some of those, and then there are some examples we are also looking from out west. But again, I think the relevance of Anacostia is much more to the and it's much closer to us. So I think that is what we're looking. But in the metropolitan Washington area and also in the Mid-Atlantic area, again, the scales are very different. But those are the ones. The other example is Prince Williams County. They do a lot of work in terms of the natural area restoration and natural stream restoration. So those are definitely, we look at them and bring relevant features into what can be applied here. I don't know if there's Pinar or anyone else wants to add to that.
Can I say that we know that this is a historic project. This is a historic stream. It's a historic watershed. This is a game changer, and we're really thrilled that we're getting this far. And we are putting all our advocacy energy, making sure everyone pays attention to you. So we want, until you tell us differently, we're going to be using this as a new model, how to be resilient, how to be recreational, how to expand our parks, how to take care of our water, how to work with water quality. It's a synthetic and perfectly leveraged approach that we really wish everybody learned from and paid attention to. So we're really happy. And we just want more people to help you and pay attention and join and coordinate with this really game-changing effort. So that's what we're doing until you tell us differently.
Well said, Rob.
Good.
Yeah, and then I think there's one question on the Metro North from John. Maybe I can pick that up. So where we are with the Metro North, as you have seen, we haven't shown you south of 230, but that's what I mentioned, that where the pipe has to continue. So we can indeed connect that waterway to the Harlem River, which is under the purview of the Metro North property. So we are currently working with Metro North for an easement. Like we need to get an easement in order to build the project, the pipe next to the current railroad. And the discussions are going in. I think we are looking sometime next year, hopefully before the fall of next year, we would like to obtain that easement. So when we have the CSX property, we have also the easement, so we can start putting the construction bid package to proceed with the construction work. We need to have both property agreements at the same time so that we can bid the project as a capital project. That's where we are. I mean, the good news is like we are, I think, a little ahead of the curve in terms of finalizing these agreements. It's progressing consistent with our design process. But nevertheless, there's a lot of players and a lot of partnership. So, before everybody goes and enjoys the rest of the evening, we'll be also hoping to make some announcements along the project and the purchase and sale agreement, signing that purchase and sale agreement, hoping and crossing our fingers that it cannot come before the end of the year, which is going to be a major milestone for the city in order to acquire this property.
And I'm sorry, I think I might have missed a couple questions if we just have a few more minutes. Deb was asking about the water budget. Is there a water budget calculated for the project itself?
Yes, we've evaluated all of the water coming both from the lake, but also within the corridor, and any water that is going to be falling within the corridor, and taking that into account in the planning of our design.
And then Bob wanted to know exactly where the stream enters the pipe underground.
Maybe
It's about 232nd Street.
Can we maybe pull that?
Let's put that slide, pull that slide up.
It's between the 231st and 233rd Street bridges.
I mean, if you want, the landmark is just north of that large parking lot before that big electrical shop, you know. Gail, you're pulling up.
Yeah.
So so you can clearly see the buildings and if from Broadway, you can, you know, I don't know who has the cursor control, but can we just point to that building that has the parking lot? Yeah, right there. Yeah, that's that building. So it's just north of that.
Okay, I think we've gone through all the questions. Apologize if I missed anybody. You know where to find me if you have any follow-up questions. So what I'll do is I'll send up a follow-up to this presentation with information on where you can find the link. And then I'll be in touch in the new year again with some more information. Hopefully, actually before that, we'll be in touch about the TSA signing. And then I'll be in touch with you again in the new year about possible ideas that you have for signage and next steps and schedule for the new year. So I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season, and we will talk soon. Thank you, everybody.
Yes,
Thank you.
Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
Thank you. Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas. Happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays.
Bye,
It is.
everybody.
Have a great holiday and have a great Christmas party. I'm sure you're gonna have a tag Christmas party.
Beautiful. All right.
You
Bye,
should.
everyone.
All right, bye-bye.